Good morning, namaste, and warm greetings to all present here. On behalf of UNESCO, MGIEP, and South Asian University, it is my privilege to welcome each one of you to this very special occasion, the celebration of International Youth Day 2025. As we look around this hall today, we see not just students, academics, or professionals. We see dreamers, innovators, problem solvers, and above all, change makers. The United Nations describes the Sustainable Development Goals as a shared blueprint for peace, prosperity, and people and the planet. But as youth, we have a unique responsibility to make this blueprint a reality, starting in our own communities. Today's theme, localization of SDGs, youth at the forefront, reminds us that global change begins with local action. It is about taking big ideas and making them work in our own neighborhoods, cities, and villages. To set the tone for this morning, let me share a quote that I personally find very inspiring. You are never too young to lead and never too old to learn. With that spirit, let us begin our program with a series of enlightening addresses and a powerful panel discussion that will ignite our thinking and I hope inspire us to act. To begin, it is my honor to invite someone who has been a constant source of encouragement for creative initiatives at SAU, Professor Amrish Saxena, Faculty of Arts and Design, South Asian University, and our coordinator for this event. So, we request you to deliver the welcome address.
Good morning, everybody. I welcome all the dignitaries, guests, my colleagues, and students. Firstly, I will begin with about the relationship of UNESCO, MGIEP, and South Asia University. It all started on 29th of November 2024 when Dr. Richa Bansal wrote an email to us, and Honorable President Professor K.K. Agrawal showed a positive response to the proposal of collaboration. Since then, Dr. Richa kept persuading till the time an MOU was signed by Dr. Abhijio for Agenum, who is the director of UNESCO MGIEP, and Dr. Ravindra Soni, Registrar, South Asian University, on 24th of April this year. This collaboration between UNESCO, MGIEP, and South Asian University covers social emotional learning and media literacy. UNESCO MGIEP has offered an online course for the students of South Asian University and workshops for the students and faculty members. The South Asian University is also facilitating the conduct of workshop in SAARC nations. I must make a mention here that today's event marks the first step in the collaboration of UNESCO, MGIEP, and South Asian University. Today, we have gathered here to celebrate International Youth Day, which is an acknowledgement of the youth power. We always recognize the fact that India is a country of youth who have a vital role to play in the path to development. United Nations and UNESCO have acknowledged the crucial aspects of development and have prescribed sustainable development goals. Putting this in perspective, the theme of today's panel discussion has been decided as localization of SDGs, youth at the forefront. And in this panel, 2 students of SAU are also joining. South Asian University has been revived and facelifted by Professor K.K. Agrawal, Honorable President of SAU, ever since he joined this augustous institution in 2023. It is with his blessings that such transformational programs are being organized, on the campus of SAU. I welcome him in this session as he had to cut short his Southeast Asian trip to ensure his presence in this brainstorming session. I welcome Professor J.S. Rajput, former director of NCERT, in today's discourse. Professor Rajput is accredited of initiating significant reforms in the education sector in India. We are fortunate that he has agreed to deliver the keynote address today. We all are eagerly waiting to listen to him. I welcome Dr. Abhijeofor Ejiofor, Director, UNESCO MGIEP, who is the inspiration for today's program. I should make a mention that the identity of Dr. Ejiofor is not merely that of an administrator, but his contribution as an academic and researcher has been immense. I welcome Mr. Armstrong Pami, Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Government of India. He has been a youth icon, and his work extends to diverse areas of development. I will urge the young people in this hall, if you're looking for some motivation, read about the work of Mr. Pami that he has done. I welcome Professor Shruti Tripathi, Professor and Dean, Delhi Skill and Entrepreneurship University. He has demonstrated her commitment to youth-led community transformation, and the youth present here will be benefited by her thoughts. I welcome our very own Professor Sanjay Chaturvedi, who is serving South Asian University in various capacities. He is the Senior Vice President, Dean of the Faculty of International Studies, and the Director of Institute of South Asian Studies. He is a learned person, and we always look for listening to him. I welcome Ms. Deepa Menon, Senior Vice President, CSR, PVR Nest, who is a distinguished business leader in cinema exhibition industry. She has worked extensively in community development, focusing on women and youth, and we are looking forward to listen to her. I welcome all my colleagues, the professors and deans of different departments who have gathered here to make this whole session a success. We all are looking forward to listen to the galaxy of distinguished personalities present in this hall. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for setting the perfect tone for today's discussion and reminding us of the responsibility we hold as youth. It is my privilege to welcome our President, Professor K.K. Agarwal, a visionary leader and a strong advocate of blending academic excellence with social responsibility. So we look forward to hearing your words of inspiration.
My very good friend, Professor Rajput, for last several decades, and we have, I think, shared innumerable platforms. It's nice of him to have visited this campus. He is a representative of India in the UNESCO for, I think, umpteen number of decades. Professor Sanjay Chaturvedi is, of course, our own colleague here. The Dr. Abhijeofor Ejiofor, director of this program. I met him while signing the MOU and before that for some discussions, and I really find that he has an aspirational goal to reach to the youth of the country and make sure that with the UNDP we are able to do many great things together. Association with SAU only provides a platform which is beyond India. They have been doing in Indian universities quite a bit, but we thought we can take this to a little more outreach and reach several other countries also. Them, our guests here, our colleague from the Joint Secretary from the Ministry, Mr. Pame. I read about him, and as Ambrish said, he's a youth icon. I think that's what should be the guiding slogan for the day, if I may put it. The two experts here, Dr. Tripathi and Dr. Deepa Menon, who have agreed to come here as panelists and add their voice to the program. My colleague from the university, Ambrish, who is steering the whole program, Dr. Richa Bansal, who is spearheading the program with Dr. Angman. And I was told by Dr. Ambrish, says, sir, you stop Professor Agarwal from going anywhere. He must be here on this program. And on the Youth Day, I had to listen to the youth. So I'm here today amongst you all. Friends, when we celebrate Youth Day, I think every university celebrates Youth Day every day, because the universities are here for youth. There is no other reason for any university to exist unless they have a mission for the youth. And when we talk about outcome-based education, unless youth is the focus, I think the university has no relevance. Any university, I'm making a strong statement, but I mean what I'm saying. Unless we focus that, we never reach what is expected of us. And I'm so happy that we are doing this program on International Youth Day with UNESCO MJIP and the university putting together. We have signed an MOU, but as I know, many MOUs remain MOUs. We would like to do as much as we can for utilizing this platform. I was also told that there is a program of UNO in general, which is UN Vision program, where the some postdoctoral fellows kind of thing, people can work in the universities and get connected with UN missions, with various UN associations. UNEP has already agreed that they can work on a couple of projects with us, but UNDP and UNICEF fit into education much better, much more. So we would be open to that scheme also to the extent possible. Today, when you talk about SDGs, I think we have talked about SDGs enough, world over, and in this country also. We talked about Millennium Development Goals. When we didn't reach anywhere, we thought instead of Millennium Development Goals, let's call SDGs and start a new beginning. But that doesn't help much. The point is we have to do much. And SDGs has not remained a luxury or a wishful thinking now. It has become a necessity. Unless our youth and all of us learn to live with sustainability as a part of the whole thread, I think we are in a very, very serious danger, which maybe we can escape, but you can't. And you will have to make sure that sustainability comes into the bloodstream for everybody to make sure things happen. Many of us in the universities had a very misconceived notion that SDG 4 on education is our concern. I think this is nothing could be farther than the truth. Universities have to be concerned with all SDGs. Only on education, yes, education is our primary goal. But tell me, everything depends on education and everything depends on youth. I'll just give one or two small stories from my personal life. I think 60 years ago, we were on a tour to South, and some restaurant, we were students at that time, some restaurant said, you can eat as much as you wish in 5 rupees. Now a student started eating. Then when he went to pay, he said, sir, 6 rupees. Because you said you can eat as much as you can in 5 rupees. He says, yes, I still mean it, but you left a chapati in thali, which is more than what you can eat. And I will charge you extra for that. He says, it's unfair. He says, no, you eat that chapati and pay 5 rupees. But if you don't have to eat chapati, then you will have to pay extra. What I'm trying to convey is wasting food had become a habit. And if we do small things, that food is to be taken, is not to be wasted, I think zero poverty is achievable. Zero hunger is achievable. The amount of food which we waste is much more than the amount of food we are short of. This single thing if we learn, and that best thing to learn is students in our messes, in our canteens, in our hostels. I've seen some universities sensitizing the students. When you take your thali after the food and throw it in the waste box, they have a balance. And the balance immediately tells you, today you are wasting 123 grams of food. Now, these small things make you sensitize that so everybody then keeps an eye. Our mess should not be branded as the worst mess, that we wasted the maximum food. A very simple thing. They just have a bag in which you put the waste box, waste food, but that bag is always weighed whenever you say. And the moment you empty your thali into this, the balance says you are wasting 74 grams of food today. Now that simple mindset equation makes you a little bit sensitive. And then if universities are a little more wiser, you say, okay, we'll have a competition amongst 5 hostels who waste least food. All these small things happen, game changers in life without even knowing that. So my dear students, I think whether you talk about clean energy, whether you talk about food shortage, whether you talk about climate change, whether you talk about sustainable way of life, I think you will have to have one thing in mind. And only thing which I would like to say, even as an academician, a course on sustainability does not make you sustainable. One mistake which we have in life learnt is, let's have a course. And then we believe A grade in sustainability means the student is good. Now, unfortunately, that's not true. Sustainability will have to become a way of life. Otherwise, it doesn't serve any purpose. I'll give you a small anecdote again. We were staying in Pandara Park when I was Vice Chancellor of IP University, and we were having a stroll every morning in India Gate Park. It's one of the most beautiful parks in the country. And they have dustbins, very nice dustbins placed by Maruti. One Monday morning when me and my wife went for a walk, we found a lot of wrappers. And looking at the wrappers, you could feel that these are rich children who had come. So I asked Sokida, I said, was this school came here for picnic yesterday? He said, yes, sir. I said, were the children alone or was a teacher also with them? He said, sir, nahi, 3 teachers bhi the bachon ke saath. I said, which school? He told me the name of the school, which I won't. But then it triggered me, one of the best schools in Delhi, where Supreme Court has mandated a paper on environment for everybody. If the children don't learn that they have to throw the wrapper into the dustbin, then where are we? I used or misused my position as Vice Chancellor. I got an invite as a chief guest to that school on an annual day. And then I just out of curiosity, I said, can I look at the grades in the environment? And everybody had A or A+. Now then I told the principal, if we give A or A+, and this is how the students behave, will we ever achieve the purpose? My dear students, I would just urge you that grades is one thing which is good in life, but life exists more than grades, and that's what the signal I like to give you. Thank you very much and all the best.
Thank you so much, sir, for your inspiring words. Your emphasis on youth-led innovation and collaboration truly aligns with today's mission. It is now time to hear from a stalwart in the field of education, Professor J.S. Rajput, former director of NCERT, who has played a transformative role in shaping policies that touch millions of learners. So, we are eager to hear your perspective on how education can be a powerful tool in localizing the SDGs.
Professor Agrawal, Dr. Eginam, Professor Chaturvedi, Shruti Tripathi ji, Deepa Menon ji, and all the academics sitting in front of me and the students here. I feel privileged to be here in this university. I would like to give a bit of my introduction. On 8th July, I completed 82 years of my age, and that day I also completed a project for the Prime Minister's Museum and Library, on which I had worked in my 81st and 82nd year, and I had submitted an outcome of 550 pages to the PMML, and also the NBT has accepted it for publication. Yes, as a young person, I was told that you are getting education, and this is a rare privilege. I did my master's in 1962 and became a professor, full professor, in 1974. I was privileged. My professor had told me that there are hundreds and hundreds of talented persons who are not able to get education. Remember, in the 60s, our literacy rate was very poor. And he said, now that you have got this privilege, your whole life should be devoted to whatever you decide. So this is the challenge. You see, in the 60s, we had leadership. And there were stories of sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. Values everywhere. A train accident takes place, the minister resigns. I like that, all those. But what I want to tell you is, we were very keen, we were very sure that now that democracy has established, we have such a wonderful leadership, not only I'm not referring only to political side, I'm referring to the scientific side also. I did my master's and doctorate in physics, and I was familiar with all those people who later on became external Professor M.G.K. Menon, Dr. Raja Raman, and like this. There were senior persons also, but we used to interact with them. And we felt so privileged. Now, today, if India's standing has acquired a dignified place, it is because of two factors. It is because of the devotion of the scientists and the ingenuity and vision of the political leadership. That is why whether it is space sciences, whether it is any area of science, technology, we have been coming up. Many of you may remember, may recall that there was one Professor D.S. Kothari. He was a physicist, and later on he went deep into the spirituality and related aspects. Dr. Kothari used to use the acronym STPG. And whenever we addressed youth, science, technology, production, and Gandhi. Gandhi is values. Science and technology, all of you know its significance. Today we are using, later on it became STEM, and other things have followed that I will not go into detail because you know. But the world before me, when I came out of the university, was indeed much better. Now people would say, everybody says this, but why it was better? I did my master's and my result was out on 21st June, and on 1st July I had a job. Now when I interview young persons with wonderful qualifications, other things, and I'm not able to appoint them because there are no vacancies, there are no other things. This transition really disturbs me. And I feel disturbed that so much of talent is being wasted. You have to see this. What are the ways out how the talent can really be utilized in the cause of the nation. And I think youth have to realize the situation, and they have to remember the two boons which Rabindranath Tagore, Gurudev had in fact identified. He said when every person is born, he gets two boons from the Almighty. You can say God, you can say from nature. And they are power of ideas and power of imagination. Think about it and you will find, yes, you are also blessed with it. And Gurudev wrote afterwards that our education systems try their best to impede both these, restrict these. You have to overcome that. You have to realize that you can think independently. The teachers also have to realize this, that it is not a question of pouring out certain ideas or certain textbooks, other things. I have learned this over the ages. And I have only one or two things to tell you. When it comes to values, I do realize that in India, if you have to communicate something to people, you have to recall Gandhi. And one anecdote in his life, which I will put it like this. Once Dr. Washburn asked him, I think it was 1932 or so, what was the most creative moment of your life? Each one of us, whatever be our age, we can recall the most creative moment of our life. Gandhi said, Peter Maritzburg was the most creative moment of my life. What was Peter Maritzburg? He had a ticket, he was thrown out, beaten, put on the platform. And he said, I reflected on this situation and I said, if I complain, it was unlikely that the person would be punished. But suppose he is punished. So what? The matter ends there. No. I will fight for all those who have suffered like me for centuries, who will continue to suffer. And that day he said his life and pattern were changed. That is the main issue which I think each one of us has to continue. We have to expand our horizons. This is one small point. Please expand your horizons. You have the capacity, you have the boon of ideas, you have the boon of imagination. And when I go and speak to young people, I say, to comprehend these, let us add two more. They are also the boons. Each one of us has curiosity and creativity. So ideas, imagination, curiosity and creativity, they can shape your personality, your self-confidence, your inner self. We had an excellent person in education, Kirit Joshi. Kirit Joshi said, the young people must realize three things. Illumination. Empower yourself. And only you can empower yourself. Nobody can teach you, nobody can tell you. You have to empower yourself. Illumination can be, a lot of things can be, but you understand. All of you, I think, follow what I am saying. Then he said heroism. You are equipped, you are fully skilled, you have the knowledge, you know how to acquire more knowledge, you know how to acquire new skills, you know how to discard certain skills. But you have to, the initiative part. And he said heroism. Everyone has to act like a hero and feel I can be a hero. I say sometimes, I have contributed to reshaping of India in all these years. I have reshaped lives. Every teacher should have this confidence and should not hesitate to say it. Every young person should be able to, whether it is a teacher or in the business or anywhere, he is contributing for the growth and development of the country. Do you agree? We are all working. We are not working only for ourselves. We require values. The other point, I said illumination, heroism, and humility. Humility is something which defines our personality. One of the Sanskrit shlokas, Vidya dadati vinayam, vinaya dadati patratam, patrata dhanam apnoti, dhana dharmam tatha sukha. I think it has all the elements that education can provide to any young person, and it also provides. The meaning is that as you grow in learning, as you grow in your qualifications, ask yourself, have you acquired more humility? A person who has acquired humility will be good to everybody. He will think of others, he will have empathy, he will have compassion, he will have social context. His social learning will increase. And the shloka says that once you have acquired humility, only then you are eligible to contribute to the society. Only then you are eligible to be a creative member of the society. Only then you can have the cooperation and collaboration of others. You are eligible. Now you must earn. Earning money is necessary in the present context. You have to live your life, help others, to follow your obligations. You do it. But happiness will not come only by earning money. You cannot be happy if your package is very high and other huge, high and huge. That doesn't bring happiness. Happiness comes only dhanat dharmam tatha sukha. If your conduct is right, that alone would give you happiness. In very simple language, I say to young persons, when you have a family or your parents and you are earning, you should be able to tell yourself, I am feeding my children on the honestly earned money. This is the value. We prepared a curriculum framework in the year 2000 for school education in India, and we found out that the world of tomorrow, now 25 years are over, would require certain aspects, and these aspects are we defined 5 values. We said whatever you are teaching, or I would say whatever you are learning, remember 5 values. Whether you are teaching physics, or history, or psychology, please ask yourself whether they can really enhance the understanding of 5 values. Truth, universally every culture, every religion accepts it. Peace, fine. Truth, peace, non-violence. 4th is righteous conduct. Sometimes we call it dharma, but dharma has different connotations for different people, but that is righteous conduct. And 5th we had said was love. Nelson Mandela said, we are born in love. We are not born to hate. We are taught to hate. This is the challenge of tomorrow. Now with the demographic changes taking place, cultures coming together, there is one point that every young person has to internalize: respect diversity. Find out the beauty of diversity. Find out how the diversity enhances your own self-perception, expands your horizon. This would be necessary because there are conflicts on languages, there are conflicts on religions, and this is the main issue which prompted people to create a United Nations organization. Why it was created? It was created because the world has suffered enormously, immensely by the two world wars within a period of, a gap of 20 years. And they say there should be a platform to discuss and find out how there can be harmony. Illumination, heroism and harmony, these define practically the future consideration of every young person. There are various ways of putting it. I put it in other languages also, but coming to United Nations again, now it is called United Nations. Earlier it was UNO. They talked of human rights, created organization, they created UNESCO, and they have contributed immensely. I came in touch with UNESCO in 1978. I attended their conference, and when I came back, I had become the principal of a regional institute of education. For the next year, I planned my own programs, and I was so happy about it that I had gone there. So in one of the meetings when UNESCO was being criticized by the donors and others, I said, it is UNESCO which has created me, which has helped me, inspired me to evolve and expand my horizons. This UNESCO has done, but the world before the young people here it's a world of conflict. It's a world which has not acquired peace. There is no harmony, no mutual respect. I used to speak very frequently the end of colonialism, the end of imperialism. For the last 10 years or so, I've started rethinking. Has it really ended? Think of the last 1 week. What has happened? Don't you see there are imperialistic tendencies? I can ask you what you should purchase and what you should sell. Who are you to do this? Where is democracy? Where is the spirit of democracy? There can be numerous examples that democracy is being demolished, and demolished for short-term gains. Nobody likes, jealousy has been a very important factor. I think nations have so much of jealousy with each other. After India is suffering that part. When I became a professor at the age of 31 years, it created so much of jealousy. I suffered it. I mention it because of you also have to face it. What do I say in the end to you? Empower yourself. Read about illumination. That would include values. That would include understanding not only Gandhi, but Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Einstein. Einstein, if you read, it had nothing to do with physics. The humanitarian aspect that he explained to young people will always be there. You have to contribute to a world in which learning cannot be shunned by others. You have to continue learning new skills. And I say that when I studied electronics in master's course, I had a 700-page book. Now that electronics stands reduced to 4 or 5 pages. So changes will take place. And you will be the person responsible for this change. You can be a change agent only if you are changing your own perceptions and ideas. So this is all that I wanted to say. I think I have taken more than the time allotted to me. But it is the youth which gives inspiration to everyone. When I come and see these faces, I feel, yes, I should continue to work. I should not give up. Because there are people who are working at 91, 92. I have met them. But the type of aspirations I have mentioned to you, it is the happiness that we all seek. And happiness requires being conscious of the happiness of others also. And if you can be a part of in contributing it in any way, that would be one. That would be the thing. So, all the best. It is the young of today who after 10, 15 years will take over the reins of the countries, and you will have to rid the world of some jokes. The nuclear proliferation treaty, many of you must have NPT. It has been going on for decades and decades. And people are expanding their nuclear weapons. This is a hypocrisy of the worst type. We have to change this world. We could not do it. Maybe you will be able to do it. I wish you success. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your profound words. Your call to action for youth to blend values with skill resonates deeply with the purpose of this event. Today's conversation is not just about discussing ideas, it's about creating pathways to act on them. Localization SDGs means taking global goals like zero hunger, quality education, gender equality, and climate action, and making them work right where we live. We have with us an outstanding lineup of leaders bringing a unique perspective. Guiding us through today's discussion will be our esteemed moderator, Dr. Richa Bansal, National Project Officer, UNESCO MGIEP. Without further ado, let us begin round one, sector-specific perspectives. We welcome you, ma'am.